Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to WCTV's Exit 168. Tonight, as you see on TV, we have our yearly preview show of the Bergen County Jamboree. We have committee members here who worked late into the night, Wednesday night, to have this selection of these teams that will be playing starting tomorrow at the various schools we were given to you. So we hope you enjoy the show, and the 2016 Bergen County Jamboree will begin right now. John, another year.
Unbelievable, Larry. It's got to be how many years?
20, I forget, 28 years of covering this wonderful
tournament.
One
of the greatest tournament that's ever been put together, and will be the best we can compete with any place.
And it goes so fast. We just said goodbye to these guys about 2 days ago. Here they are again, and we're starting. Let's introduce them. I think most of you know who they are. We'll go from left to right. Paul Pugliese, Leon Steinberg, and Ed Crowmer. They are the committee members. And gentlemen, I get a feeling, since Ed sent me the bracket, you guys were working late into the night Wednesday. What time did you start at the Saddlebrook High School putting this tournament together?
Well, first of all, thank you guys for having us, and don't you guys look great with your shirts on?
We found this shirt last year, these sweaters.
This is the only time we wear this, you know, we're not allowed.
I told my wife, don't touch it, put it in plastic, leave it alone.
Looks good. Thank you to get back to your question, we started at about 6 o'clock, and it's obviously the three of us. We also have great other committee members, Ricky Corcoran, John Ryan, and our Chris Annabelle. And I'm hesitating because Chris Annabelle just had a baby girl. His wife just had a baby girl last night, and his wife is about ready to deliver. And Chris was at the meeting, made sure he was at the meeting, participated, you know. And I expected him to be running out the door at any minute, but it's tremendous dedication. We also have so those are the six of us, and the six of us. What we'll do is communicate all year, and the communication has been improving, and so we don't really. When we get to the meeting, we have a lot of work done. Preliminary work is done already. We also have Tommy Curry, AD at Bergen Field, who's the Bergen County Coach Association liaison, and thanks to the Coach Association because they're the ones that we work for. We work for the BCCA, and Tommy does a great job as our liaison. We also had at the meeting Jimmy McConville, who does our stats and scores at a lot of our games, and Jimmy is a great help. He provides us with a lot of information. So we started about 6, I guess it was about 10:30 or so that we wrapped. We eliminated the 1 o'clock in the morning a little bit by sharing a lot of the information prior and talking a lot.
So you do a lot of the work starting. I'm going to guess, correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of your hard work begins right after Thanksgiving. And if you finished Wednesday, basically, compilating all the information and stats and everything.
Well, that's when it amps up, yes. We have multiple meetings. We get along real well, and we love basketball, so we communicate, you know, all year round. But it really starts to amp up in November when things start to get rolling, and Ed has done a fabulous job making sure that everything is taken care of with all of our sites, and everything is arranged. And we have Pete DeFranco, who I have to mention. Peter has been our assigner. He assigns the officials. And it starts to amp up after Thanksgiving, and then of course we're kind of ready to go at that point. You know, let's get to games, and then, you know, in the middle of December, actually some of us sneak out and get to some scrimmages even before the games start. And then once the games start that third week in December, then we're out. If there's a game, we're probably out.
So someone is at these schools watching these teams and rating them. One committee member is at these schools. So do you have it broken down to leagues or area? How do you break that down? Who goes where?
Well, you know, we used to. This is my 16th year on the committee. And when we first started, that in the late great Eddie Strohmeyer was the Mr. Jamboree man. He was the chairman. And we would bring in folks specifically to cover a league. But the way it's gone the last 6, 7 years or more, the leagues switch and they switch and they switch and they switch, and you know it's kind of hard for us to do that. So what we do is we and make sure that pretty much every single team of the 56 teams in Bergen County gets seen at least one time by one of us, and a lot of times they get seen multiple times, and a lot of teams get seen by a lot of us.
You write a report up?
Yes, I have a report.
You
I do.
write reports, right?
Yes, and I send it out to these guys, and I say, okay, fellas, we need to get to see this team or that team. Nobody has seen them, and we're looking regularly at the games. What's a good game? A lot of times we'll go see 2 games in a day. Sometimes if they're having some of these tournaments, we'll go see 4 or 5 games. Ed and Leon, the guys went over to Ramapo College when they had, I don't know, they had 5 games that day.
They had 8. They started
at 8 games.
11 in the morning and went till 7:30 at night.
And basically, when you're there, you're doing all those games, you have your pad and you're taking notes down of the team, or you're just watching it overall?
You know, I think one of the things that, and Tom Curry mentioned it the other day, Paul provides us, he does the computer work, and he provides us with many resources throughout the course of the season. We track scores, as he mentioned, we track who's seen who, but Tom mentioned it, and I think we all kind of subscribe to the eye test theory. You know, we see teams, and I don't think there's a better evaluation than comparing notes with one another based on what we've seen, having scouted a team, having been in an actual game. So in terms of taking notes, we're not there like the old days of scouting where you're writing constantly, but we're certainly mentally keeping track of strengths and weaknesses of teams and who they've played well against in terms of their common opponents. All of those things factor in when we sit down at the end of that, at the cutoff Tuesday night, and then certainly on Wednesday night.
Yeah, I think it's important. So you would see a team, and Leon would see a team, and the both of you would sit down and say, well, I think this, I think that, I think they did this, they're good, their strength, their weaknesses. That's what you're saying, basically.
I think that's a pretty good assessment.
And a lot of you were coaches, so obviously you know the game inside and out. So when you're looking at it, you see how they adjust to defenses, what they do. Are they well trained by the coaches? Do they have great athletes? And all that will come into play.
I think if you saw our records, you wouldn't say we know the game inside and out.
Well, just by watching it.
But we were all coaches, and one of the great things about the Jamboree, which has been this way for as long as I can remember, and as long as a lot of the folks older than I can remember, the committee pretty much has no active head coaches on the committee. Whereas a lot of sports can't do that. A lot of the other sports have active coaches. We have people who love the game, and yeah, we did work at a school, a lot of us, or maybe our kids went to a school, but we really don't have an agenda. We don't have a bias that we bring to the table. So it's a way for us, actually, it's a great way for us to stay involved with basketball now that for whatever reason we're no longer coaching.
I think it's very important that the public has an idea of just how much effort that goes into putting a team's seeding and selecting and seeding teams. I think the public has to understand that this is a 2-3 month labor of love, and that you really look at it. And so when the teams are picked, you have a wonderful record as to why they're picked and why they're there. It's just not pulled out of the hat and away you go. And I don't think many people understand that. So I just want to make sure.
The best example of that, Larry, is the feedback that we get from coaches. Coaches throughout the county, they see us, they know we're there, they know why we're there, and I think they appreciate the time and effort. And the bottom line, and Paul mentioned it, we're just basketball junkies, whether we're former coaches or not. We're just basketball junkies. We love to be in the gym, and that's not to say that people aren't going to be critical of the way we've seeded these 23 teams. That goes with the territory. But at the same time, we feel we've done our due diligence and put them where we believe they're best suited.
I think that's true, and what I would like to see, not only the coaches understand it, but also the general public understand just how much goes into this. It's very difficult. I know, John knows, we know. We see what you do. We understand what you do. We try to explain when we meet people how much work goes into it. And that's why I'm always pounding the amount of effort that goes into it. So coaches will say, you do a good job. But the general person sitting in the stands have no idea what goes on, the nuts and bolts that go on behind it. Let's get into it, Paul. Now we start. Let me ask you one question, and then we'll start with the highest ranking team. How many schools applied this year for the Jamboree?
Okay, as I mentioned, we have 56 schools in Bergen County, and we had 31 of the 56 applied, and we took 23 of those 31. And as I say to you guys every year, the toughest part of our job on Wednesday night is eliminating teams. Now, some of the teams applied, and they applied with a hope that maybe they could win most of the games after their application, and it's, you know, but there are teams that are hanging on, you know, the results of that meeting because they legitimately want to be in the tournament, and that speaks to our predecessors who made this great tournament. But that's the toughest thing. So 8 of the teams that applied were eliminated at that meeting. And then we take the 23, we take all of the stats that we have, all the information that we have, as Ed mentioned, the eye test. And then we go ahead and we seed the teams. And then comes the tough part, which, again, maybe a lot of the general public and even basketball fans don't realize, is once we seed the teams, we then have to move them around because we cannot have any team play a league opponent in the first or second round of the tournament. Actually, it's the first game of the tournament, so it could be first or second round. And we are also asked to try to avoid having teams that have played each other, even if it wasn't a league opponent, try not to match them up in the first round. So in some cases, we end up moving a team off a seed line a spot or 2 or maybe 3, because if they stayed on that spot, we would have, you know, we wouldn't be in conjunction with that, you know, regulation.
So that's another difficulty you have to. Oh, I'm not saying let's call it a challenge. You have a challenge once you have all this. This works. The puzzle works. Oh no, it doesn't work. We got to pull. And when you take one team out, I'm sure it's like a domino. Other teams have to be moved, and that becomes a problem. So, like I said, this is not an easy task. It's a very difficult task that we know, the coaches know. I just hope the public out there that come and see these games and enjoy them and get a great thrill understand the amount of work that goes into this.
You know, Larry, if I can interject, the easy part for us, because we all love the game, is going to watch the games. The hard part is the 1,000 little details that goes into it and all the administrative work. And it's really these two gentlemen that do 99% of that administrative work. The easy part is for us to get together and sit together and watch the games. And I'm
going to guess the administrative work gets more and more. I know. All right, Paul, the show is now yours and Leon's. And Ed, there, you could interject anytime you want as you start the countdown from number 23. We'll have some of it go up on the screen. They'll follow you. They know what you're going to do because we've done this. We've done this a couple of times. You know, this is not our first rodeo here, so we know. So go ahead.
Okay, well, we'll start with number 23, the Palisades Park Tigers. They're 10-3. They're out of they're second place right now in the NJIC Patriot Division. John Wiseman is the coach there, and he does a great job. They're a quick, athletic team. They run a half-court trap, very tough. They're flying all over the floor. They are going to open up with Hackensack tomorrow, number 10 Hackensack at Old Tapan at 1:30. And they have they're an experienced team. They're driven by 3 seniors. De Roziers, Digby, and Taylor, and then the other Taylor, a junior, and they're going to be a tough out. If you have to be careful with the ball. You have to make sure that you don't turn it over, because once they get on a roll, they can run off a whole bunch of baskets real quick. Palisades Park, number 23. Number 22, the Pagoda Bucks. Coach Jay Mahoney last night, I guess it was, won his 599th game. So tomorrow, Coach Jay Mahoney out of the NJIC Patriot Division, they're 9-4. He is going to be going for number 600. He is the third winningest coach in Bergen County. Number 1 is Marty Rivard, now of Bergen Field. Number 2 is the late, great Chris Donfield out of Bergen Catholic. And Jay, I coached against Jay for many, many years, and you don't know what to expect. They'll throw anything at you. They'll have players come off the bench that maybe haven't played much, who he'll have shooting threes. They'll play any kind of defense. They're extremely, extremely difficult to play for, and I don't think there's a coach in the county that works harder than Coach Mahoney. He's still, after all these years, I think it's 37 or 38 years, he's the head coach there, and he won the county tournament twice. First time in, I guess it was 1989 or 1990, it was the first time, and they had some players. Then a couple of years later, I guess it was 1994, he won the county again as a Group 1 school, and he didn't have that same level of talent.
That's where we came in with Jay Mahoney and Kevin Dushwanta shooting 48 points.
Yes.
That's when we came in.
I bet that school has shot more threes than any other school in the county.
Woodbridge might be.
I'm sorry, I got to take that back.
It would be a close. I just have to say, I came to Bergen County. I came to Tenafly High School in 1979 as the boys basketball coach. My first ever scrimmage was against Pagoda and Jay Mahoney. I looked at my assistant coach about 5 minutes into the scrimmage, and I said, "Is this the way all coaches in Bergen County comport themselves?" I said, "Because I'm in trouble." And I said it with a certain amount of respect at that time, and obviously, 37 years later, what a phenomenal career.
He was getting out of his chair then in 1979.
Definitely was. Definitely was.
He always was. Jay does a fabulous job. They have. And the thing is, if you looked at it, we track their players, and if you look, he may play 3 or 4 kids one game that you haven't seen before, and they will contribute. So they're going to be a tough out. They're going to play St. Mary tomorrow at 2:30 at Bergen Catholic. Looking forward to that game. Always look forward to seeing Pagoda play, because you don't know what to expect. Next on our list, number 21, the North Arlington Vikings. They're 13-3, and they may be the hottest team. They have won 11 in a row. Rich Corsetto is their coach. Rich Corsetto used to be at Passaic Tech many years and is at Passaic County Community College. And Rich obviously knows the game very, very well. They're number 2 in the NJIC Meadowlands Division. They're going to open up with Queen of Peace, which is going to be interesting because Queen of Peace is right down the streets. It's the 2.5 blocks away. I don't think they play each other much anymore, but as I was telling you guys before, back in the day, it was a tremendous rivalry. And we'll get to see a little bit of that tomorrow, see how that goes. It's again, they've won 11 in a row. They lost their 3 games. They lost to St. Mary twice, who's real good, and they also lost to Patterson Charter, who's a very good team. So again, maybe the hottest team in the tournament, coming into the tournament. Anyway, we've won 11 in a row, the North Arlington Vikings.
Just again, 2 weeks ago, the 3 of us spent a night down in North Arlington's gym. We did exactly what Paul talked about. We spent a little time watching North Arlington play, got up, walked down the street, and caught Queen of Peace and Cliffside Park. So we definitely killed 4 birds with 1 stone that night.
Yeah, those are nice nights when we can hit 2 games in one night, and we don't even have to move the car. You park the car, and then you can just walk to the next game. Okay, number 20 is the Thunderbirds of Mahwah, and Coach Michael Brannick. Michael Brannick played at Waldwick. He's doing a fabulous job at Mahwah. Really has the Thunderbirds playing well. After a slow start, they lost to Pascack Hills, Ramsey, Riverdale, and Cliffside Park, all tournament teams, by a total of 13 points. So those 4 games could have easily gone the other way. They're 8-5. They're in the Big North Patriot Division. And Michael runs a very deliberate motion offense. Everybody is moving. Everybody's screening. It's very difficult to defend, and they are very patient. So they're not likely to take too many bad shots.
Similar to Pascack Hills?
Similar to Pascack Hills, a little bit of a different offense, but similar in philosophy that they're not going to take a bad shot.
Okay.
And they're going to play real tough defense, real tough man-to-man defense. And that's what they need to do. With the talent that they have some shooters, they have some tough-minded kids, and they're going to be a tough out. They have won 6 of their last 7 games.
A lot of low-scoring game. Great defense.
Yes, very low-scoring games.
Outstanding young man, Brett Hill.
Brett Hill, 6'2" senior. He's a real good player. Main scorer. And on their bench is Michael Tremblay, assistant coach, who was a great player at Mawa and had brothers who were great players and had sons and nephews who were all great players and actually nieces who were great players for the girls team. So they have a strong Mawa influence. Of course, Mawa has been one of the class programs in the counties forever. They are going to play number 13, Pascack Valley, at Old Tapan tomorrow. Okay, next on our list is number 19 is Elmwood Park Crusaders. They are 10-3. Kevin Toohey has been the coach there for the last few years, doing a great job, starting to get to be regulars in the tournament. They have different style, kind of the opposite style from Maui. They want to run, they want to shoot. They have very athletic kids, very quick. They are number 1 in the NJIC Colonial Division. They beat Eastern Christian, who's very good, the other night, and they split with Rutherford, who's a tournament team. So they 10-3, obviously having a good year. They just lost the other night in a real tough game to Park Ridge. So Elmwood Park Crusaders are good. They have Todorovsky is 6'4" senior. He's a big, strong kid. Ricketts is a 6'3" senior. So they got some inside talent, but they're really quick, and they, they'll push the ball, and you better be ready, because as soon as these big guys get the ball off the boards, they're going to go. Elmwood Park Crusaders, 10-3. You guys jump in anytime you want.
They're doing a great job already.
Why should we bother to?
You don't want to spoil the parade.
Right, exactly.
Turn it on, turn it off. Yeah, right.
Should wind them up a little more.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying listening to this.
Yeah, very good.
You don't usually enjoy what I've got to say. Next on our list is number 18, the Park Ridge Owls. And the Park Ridge Owls are coached by one of the great young coaches in Bergen County, Adam Kaplan. Adam came over to Waldwick a few years ago, and within 2 years at Waldwick won a state sectional title. Moved over to Park Ridge. He moved to Park Ridge. His family was in Park Ridge. So fortunately for the Owls, the job was open, and Adam, now in his second year at Park Ridge, has got them at 13-1. And the one loss they have was to Rutherford by 2 points, a tournament team. Otherwise, they could be undefeated.
Very disciplined.
Very disciplined.
And very fundamental.
Right, and I had the privilege of working with Adam in his couple of years. He's got a fabulous attitude. It plays off to his players. He's got a great group of assistant coaches who really understand the game, and they won't give up too many possessions. They're going to make you work on defense and make you work on defense until they get a good shot. And they're going to play very, very smart. The other night at our meeting, one of the things that Leon and I talked about quite a bit was the influence of the coaches on the team. And a lot of times we tend to look at just the talent and big guys and quick guys and guys who can jump out of the gym. Well, sometimes you also got to look at the system that they're running and the coach. And he's got a great group of guys. Wittenberg is one of his leading scorers, 6'3" senior. Havermeister, Tommy Morgan. They got several solid seniors. They got a real experienced team. And again, they're 13-1, and the only loss they have to a tournament team could have gone the other way. So the Park Ridge Owls will play Cliffside tomorrow, 1:45 at Bergen Field. Next on the list is the Dwight Englewood Bulldogs, coached by athletic director and for some years now, head coach Eli Goldberger. And Eli does a great job. They're number 2 in the NJIC Liberty Division. And they seem to just bring in players, and now they've got some real good young players, some freshmen who could fly up and down. They want to push the ball, and again, you have another contrast in style. We just talked about a couple of teams that are very deliberate and want to run few possessions for a long time. Now you've got a team like Dwight Englewood who wants to fly up and down. They want to go. They want to push the ball. They want to run. They want to shoot the three. And Eli does a great job getting his guys in position to do that. They've won 7 in a row. Their 3 losses, they're 12-3. Their 3 losses are they lost to Dwight Morrow, their crosstown rival, twice, and they also lost to Queen of Peace. So playing, in a small division, they have played some pretty tough outside division games, and they've done real well.
They are very young, aren't they?
Yeah.
Freshmen?
They've got 2 freshmen who are major contributors.
Jordan McCoy and Xavier Wilson.
Brother
Right.
played at Westwood High School.
Yeah, McCoy, he was on that undefeated team at Westwood as an 8th grader.
They said
Right.
that McCoy was a top 5, 8th grader in the nation.
He's
Yeah.
a
6'3".
he's a
the real
really
deal.
Yeah.
he's a really talented basketball player.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really
And
excellent.
he's a freshman.
He's excellent,
And he's a freshman.
He's excellent, and he's unselfish. It seems.
Right. And they are going to play number 16 Rutherford tomorrow at 12:45 at Bergen Catholic. And we didn't talk about this, but that 16-17 game is the Battle of the Bulldogs. It's the
right.
Dwight Englewood Bulldogs against number 16, the Rutherford Bulldogs.
A lot of Bulldogs.
Got a lot of Bulldogs. So we got Rutherford Bulldogs, 10-5. Nick DeBarry, second place in the NJIC Colonial. And Mignoni, are you going to say soft G? Mignoni?
No, I go with you. That's good.
Mignoni?
That's excellent.
Okay. The 5'11 junior is their leading scorer, and I think he had a 35 or
32 against Garfield
Yeah,
just
can
2
play.
nights ago. So.
He can fill it up, and he's got a good supporting cast. The Bricola,
Yeah,
another
Scanlon
and Scanlon and
I like Prince Smith.
Prince Smith, yeah.
Prince Smith.
You think I make this up?
No, I see the name.
Leon and I saw a great game, Christmas tournament final at
Lyndhurst.
Lyndhurst between the Rutherford Bulldogs and Queen of Peace. And we got there. I think we had been at another game, wherever we had been. We got there after the game had started, and the gym was rocking. It was packed. The fans had their routines going. It was just great high school atmosphere, and what a fabulous game. Rutherford came up a little bit short, but they're real tough. They have tough-minded kids who will do whatever they need to do to make sure that they give their team the best chance to win. And Nick does a great job. And his assistant coach, who's Mr. Rutherford, Tom Potter, has been on the sidelines now as a coach since the 80s. He's been around for 30 plus, and he knows the ins and outs, and Nick does a real good job. So I'm really looking forward to that 16-17 game. Leon was asking me which game am I looking forward to the most tomorrow, and there's certainly a lot of good matchups, but 16-17, the Battle of the Bulldogs, I think.
It's going to be interesting because Dwight's going to they're going to press. They're very quick. They're going to get after you full court, and Rutherford's got real tough guard him in Joan. He's an old school player.
Okay, so moving on down the road. Here we go. Number 15, the Cliffside Park Red Raiders, coached by Sean McIsaac, who I think Ed knows a little bit. You know Sean a little bit?
Well, again, you talk about some of the young coaches. I think Sean's right there with Adam Kaplan as being one of the real up-and-coming superstars in the coaching fraternity in the county. Sean assisted Joe Finizio at Tenafly for a couple of years before he went to Cliffside Park, and they were in the tournament last year and had an upset in the first round. And
They were the 20th seed, and they won their first round game as a 20th seed.
Yeah.
And they're number 1 in the Big North American Conference. Guzman and Valerio are 2 of their better players, both seniors guards. They beat Mawa and Queen of Peace, who are both in the tournament, and they lost tough games to Riverdale and also to the Ramsey Rams. And they are going to play Park Ridge tomorrow at 1:45 at Bergen Field.
They're just tough.
And they are just tough. Yeah, a team like Cliffside or Rutherford. I know that they may be on the lower seeded side, but I'm sure that whoever's going to play them, the coaches are going to be staying up late or not sleeping well the night before that game. because those folks are tough and they can play. And they'll play Rutherford and Cliffside. Cliffside is very deliberate too. They don't take a lot of bad shots.
They can shoot the three.
They can shoot the three, but they're not going to force a lot.
They want to win with defense. And they're going to grind it out, and they're going to be very physical.
They ran what? They were like 10-0. They started very quick. I remember 8, 9, 10-0.
No.
Undefeated.
They had a big
played
win
well.
over Queen of Peace.
Yeah.
We a lot of us went to that Queen of Peace game because we caught North Arlington, then we went down there, walked down the street to Queen of Peace, and at Cliffside, the Queen of Peace game may have been the best game we saw this year.
Well,
Oh, the defense that Queen of Peace played, which we'll talk about in a minute, talk about the Golden Griffins, but Cliffside, with tremendous pressure on them, every time they touched the ball, they couldn't turn around without, they hung in there and they stuck to their game plan, and sure enough, they pulled out a big win at Queen of Peace. So Cliffside's going to be a tough out. And speaking of disciplined and tough-minded teams, Riverdale is next. And Riverdale, coached by Ron Van Saters, 9-3. They're third in the Big North Patriot Division. Ed and I saw them the other day beat Cliffside at Riverdale. And they are also a deliberate team that's not going to take a lot of bad shots. And they're very strong. They're physical kids. Very hard to move them off their spot, very hard to take the ball away from them, and very hard to get past them when they're guarding you.
4 football players.
I think that was what was mentioned the other day in the article that was in the record, is that they've just kind of taken the success of the football team and just moved right from November into December. Kid Connor Beltoff is their real key player, but the fact that they've taken that mentality that the football team and just transferred it over to the hard court is probably very key to their season.
And Riverdale beat Bogota, Mawa, and Cliffside, as I mentioned, who are all tournament teams. And their 3 losses, they're 9-3. Their 3 losses are to Ramsey, Pascack Hills, and Ridgefield Park. So another tough team to prepare for, another tough. And one of the things I like about Riverdale is you look at them and you just see that the kids they're focused. You know, you could tell when they're doing their warm-ups and when they started getting into the game, you could tell that they know what they want to do and they're going to do everything they can do to get the job done. Riverdale, now number 13, the Pascack Valley Indians, coached by Al Coleman, a regular in the tournament. They're 8-5, third in the Big North National. And this is one of those teams where we talk about strength of schedule. And Pascack Valley has played an extremely tough schedule. They have 5 losses, and someone might say, well, 8-5, that doesn't look so good. But if you look at who they lost to, they lost to Bergen Catholic, Teaneck, Oltapan, Hackensack, and Wayne Hills. All of those are top teams. Wayne Hills, of course, is one of the best teams in
number
the
one
Passaic
seed
County.
in the Passaic County tournament.
Number 1 seed in the Passaic County tournament. So when we talk about the coaches and scheduling and making sure that they're playing tough schedules, Pascack Valley may have the toughest schedule of them all. They're going to play number 20 Mawa at Oltapan at 3:15.
Matt Vassell, you got to mention him, the freshman. Not freshman, the guard.
He's a
Super
guard. Yeah.
guard.
Yeah,
Right.
can shoot it.
And Pascack Valley is famous for being the place where Leon Steinberg went to high school.
I know that. And
Oh,
Al
really?
Coleman.
Yeah.
Yes, they have a plaque. This is where Leon went.
And of course, Al Coleman with Mike Doherty. And when you play with Doherty, you got to play defense, and he instills in defense.
Oh yeah, they're very, very tough, very physical team, strong kids,
Fundamental.
very fundamental.
Rookie Corcoran saw the Pascack Valley Hackensack game a week and a half ago, I think, and he just kept writing. Because as Paul mentioned, one of the things we do when we're sitting at games is we're texting each other what's going on at the game that we're at. And I think in that particular game, there were 27 three-pointers made. I know you're going to talk a little bit more
high-scoring
about Hackensack a little later.
You mean
That is huge.
27 shots, 27?
No, 27
made?
made three-pointers.
Made three-pointers.
I'm pretty sure that's the way Rookie calculated it. But it was, again, we talk about great games that we see during the course of the season. That's one of Rookie's favorites, I know.
Wow.
And Vassal probably had 7 or 8.
They're a very good shooting team all around.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that's another thing that's happening now with basketball. The three-point shot has been around for a while, but now we're starting to see the big guys step out. And so you get a team like Pascagoula Valley where a lot of them can shoot the three. You know,
their tallest.
and not shoot it, but make it, shoot and make it. You know, anybody can
Their
shoot.
tallest players plays the perimeter and can shoot the three. So.
Yeah.
Pascagoula Valley at number 13. Number 12 we mentioned before, the Queen of Peace Golden Griffins, coached by Christian Boyce. They're number 1 in the NJIC Liberty Division. They're 13-2. And this may be one of the most impressive teams. They were not in the tournament last year. I don't think they were in the year before. But they have some freshmen who could play. And to support that, they have Jeremy Joseph is a 1,000-point scorer.
Right.
He is. I mean, watch this kid play, and he's just solid. He just plays solid basketball. He doesn't force much. He's a big, strong kid. He's about 6'4".
Fast,
Very
explosive.
unselfish.
And very unselfish.
Yep.
And he's a senior. Been there for 4 years, and now he's got some young talent, some young freshmen, Brian Henderson, Raja Cameron, Joshua Pierre-Louis.
I love that name.
These guys, you know, he now has a lot of support there. And their big guy, Ibn Loyal.
Ibn Loyal.
He's big, tough kid. And we were trying to figure out Wednesday, you know, where might a team, say, below the 10 seed, surprise everybody and come in here. And certainly Queen of Peace has a chance to do that. Queen of Peace lost their 2 games. They lost to a very tough Kearney team, and they also lost the game we mentioned to Cliffside Park. And they play, they have quickness and strength, and they will come after you full court, and you can't take a relaxing breath because they're all over you. So they're going to be, you know, I was very impressed with Queen of Peace when we saw them. The Golden Griffins. Next on the list is number 11, the St. Mary Gales. Brian Gassion, who's been a fabulous player and coach around the county for many years. They're number 1 in the NJIC Meadowlands Division. They were 13 seed last year. They're 11-2. This year they're the 11th seed. They beat North Arlington twice, and again, a tough Patterson charter school. They lost to Manchester, who's very good, and to Teaneck, who's obviously very good. And I think we all remember not too many years ago, a couple of years ago, that St. Mary made a great run to the quarters. And Brian's right back there again. And he's Tim Klarman, Amir Hicks, 2 solid senior guards. And then their sophomore 6'6" kid who's got a name that we've heard before, Mark Datica.
How many kids does the Datica family have gone to that school?
Well,
I can't believe it.
there were three. You know,
Like there's
They
more.
figured
I
out-
mean.
3 Datica brothers were great players at Elmwood Park back in the day. And Scott, his dad, is the oldest of the 3. Played for Dickie Kanoth back in the day and won a couple of state sectionals. And his son now, Mark, is got that same winning attitude and very, very, very basketball savvy. And of course, Brian knows the county, he knows the game, and as we said, St. Mary could make a run.
It's a very good backcourt. They have an athletic backcourt, and they know how to play.
And that's going to be a fun game to watch tomorrow too, because you got 2 great coaches, because they're going to play Bogota. So Bogota going for their 600th, St. Mary with recent memories of making it to the quarters. You know, that should be a real fun game to see.
And one of the things that Brian has done that we mentioned the other night at our meeting is that he's gone out and really built up his independent schedule. He did lose to Teaneck at Englewood in their invitational, and he also had St. Joe's on their schedule, who he lost to Snow. But you know, he really feels that both in the scrimmage season and during the regular season, it is really going to be in the best interest of his team to schedule some solid independents to get them ready for an opportunity in the Jamboree. So.
And when you look at that too, I mean, just to support what Ed just said. I mean, when a small school like St. Mary's schedules a TNEC and an independent game, I think they understand, where they need to go and what they need to do to get there. And certainly, St. Mary is going to be reckoned with. Now, we had mentioned one of the tough things about seeding the teams, and of course, when the teams don't get in, that's always the toughest thing, when a team doesn't get in. Well, one of the things that's tough, too, is who gets that first round bye and who doesn't. The last team to play the first round is going to be number 10, the Hackensack Comets, coached extremely capably by Aaron Taylor. Does a great job down there. Hackensack, traditionally a Bergen County powerhouse, they're 10-5. They're the 10 seed this year. Last year they were the 7 seed. They're number 2 in the Big North Freedom Division. And one of the players to watch in the tournament is Michael Richardson. He's a 6-foot senior, and he can play. And they also have some size. Edward Amendo, 6'6", a senior. Sorrell is a 6'4", sophomore. They've got some size and some strength, and they're gonna play fast and tough and strong. And again, Hackensack has always got to be considered a potential Final Four, if not a finalist. They beat Pascack Valley and Ridgewood. They lost to Teaneck the other night by 10. They lost twice to St. Joe's. They lost to Eastside and Ramapo. So, they do have 5 losses, but again, 5 losses to very good teams. And they're going to play a number 23 Powell Park at 1:30 at Old Tappan tomorrow.
That's a really, really terrific backcourt. Maybe as good as there is in the county, led by M.J. Richardson. He's just flat out a terrific all-around player. It's going to be fun to watch.
He came from Teaneck, right?
He did.
He did.
Transferred to Teaneck, yeah.
And Paul mentioned they just lost to Teaneck by 10, but it was, I think 10 is probably, doesn't give you the right picture of the game, because I think it was a very competitive game.
Great article in the paper about the camaraderie and the cheering and screaming. Yep. And you got to keep, the referees went out and said, look, got to calm down. Everybody's got to calm down.
Hackensack Teaneck basketball.
Oh, my goodness. That's a war.
They played 100 times, more than that probably. So as I also mentioned earlier, we have the situation occurs every year where we have to move teams around. So like a Hackensack maybe couldn't be a little bit higher because of who they were matched up with. And number 9 team is the first team that gets a bye tomorrow, and that's the Old Tappan Knights, coached by Craig Ferraro. I think this is Craig's 3rd year, leading the Knights. They're 10-4. They're 2nd in the Big North National. Justin Minaya is, I think, their best player. He's 6'5", junior. They have some size. Kevin Eford is 6'5", Chris Baker 6'4", sophomore. So they've got some size, and they're used to playing tough competition, and they're used to being in tough games. They beat Pascack Valley, and they also beat Snyder, who's very good, and they lost to Paramus Catholic, Ramapo, and Don Bosco. 3 of their 4 losses to top teams in the county.
Very strong rebounding team, a lot of size. They're good.
Lucas Casamento.
Yep, good guard.
Lucas Casamento, yes, whose dad, right, was
Cliffside. Was
Dom Casamento was just recently passed. Dom was the Cliffside Park guy. He grew up there, and he was a good coach there. So he knows the game.
An outstanding person.
Yeah, he knows the game.
Great referee.
And the Minaya kid is just a really, really talented player. He's explosive. He's athletic. He knows how to play. So
he'll go baseball though with his dad.
When your dad is who
makes
he
a
is.
lot of money with baseball.
Yeah, that's true.
He's going to play baseball. He said he's played baseball this year. He's got to play.
You know,
I still think his future is in basketball.
and he keeps growing. I think
Yeah.
he's grown,
He's-
they say, 3-4 inches.
Yeah, he's one of the leading scorers in the county, I think.
Got to be considered one of the best players in the county at this point.
Yep. So number 8 on our list as we get closer to number 1 is Pascack Hills Cowboys. Pascack Hills is 11-1. Kevin Kirkby does a fabulous job year in and year out. They are one of the best teams in the county. And they're second in the Big North Patriot Division. And it seems that it doesn't matter, you know, new players graduate, new players come in, they get into that system. It's that same system pretty much that they're running over at Park Ridge. Adam Kaplan runs at Park Ridge. He worked with the Kirkbys because, of course, before Kevin it was Chris, who and they run a system that comes, you know, from one of the great coaches who's still on the bench there, Mike O'Brien. And Michael, when he was coaching, I think he won 500 games. And they just know how to play basketball. And
as we've said many times amongst ourselves, it's almost not fair. They have the collection of coaches that they do together.
Yeah.
Kids are very fortunate.
And because of that, they, you know, and the kids come in, and when they come into the program, they know how to play the game. And you know, again, they're not number 8. They're number 8 for a reason. They're 11-1, and their one loss was to Ramsey in overtime. And Ramsey is one of the best teams. Ramsey's got a fabulous group, which we'll talk about in a minute. So they could, you know, they could easily be undefeated at this point.
I always like watching Pascack Hills play for that their system they run. Doesn't matter over the years, like you say, different kids come in, they run the same system, and they're successful. That's coaching.
They're very fundamental. They share the ball. They play virtually all man-to-man defense. They guard you, and they're an unselfish team. That all comes from the coach.
And they can all shoot the 3.
And they can shoot the 3. Schill, Danziger, Schumer. They got all kinds of players.
Gillimaine.
Gillimaine, 6'1"
excellent,
junior.
you know, solid,
Yep.
all-around player.
So they're
And they
Pascack.
don't turn the ball over.
And they don't turn the ball
Yeah,
over,
it's
which we.
you know, they have very good point guard. They're heady. They don't
Last
make
year they had an
mistakes.
upset, right? They had an upset last year to get in the Jamboree.
Last year, the year
No, they
before.
didn't-
That was the
they
year
won
before. Yep, the year before. Yep.
Years come together.
Yeah, they sure
These years
do.
blend, these years blend
Yeah.
like a paint. It's a blend. You can't tell where the paint starts and begins.
Right. Right.
Well, I don't think Paul's mentioned it yet, but you're talking about the number of years. This is the 60th Oscar F. Thompson Memorial.
It is, yeah, I saw
Bergen
that.
County,
Yeah.
yeah.
60th year.
60th.
It's the 60th year. The tournament started in, you know, just a quick history. The tournament started in 1951. There were a few years there in the 60s and in the early 70s where they couldn't run the tournament because the state had regulations regarding numbers of games that you could play. So, you know, but it did start in 1951.
That's the year I came to this country.
Oh,
it?
start
From
now.
Italy.
Here we go.
1951 in October.
Got off the
And
steamer.
that's, yeah, well, yes. I jumped ship. No.
We'll let that go.
We'll let that go. We'll go back to basketball.
Back to basketball. Okay, number 7, the Paramus Catholic Paladins. You know, they're 11-4. Mark Scott is new coach. And I think this is his first year.
First year.
It is, yes.
First year at Paramus Catholic. They're 4th in the Big North United, but the Big North United, the other 3 teams, at least 3 of the other teams are seated ahead of them in the tournament. So obviously it's a very tough team, tough division to play in. They're big and strong. You know, they've got some real quick guards. They're very athletic, and they want to play fast. And
They have a big boy in the middle.
Yes, they do.
Good player.
yeah, they're able to play fast because they can get the rebound and get the ball off and push the ball up the court. And at 6'6" and 6'4" inside, and they can jump and they're tough. So you got to be ready to run. And you got to be ready to bang when you play against Paramus Catholic. They lost to Bergen Catholic twice. They lost to St. Mary's of Elizabeth, who's a very good team. They lost to Don Bosco. I'm sorry, they lost to St. Joe's too. They lost to Bergen once, I guess I had that wrong. They beat Old Tapan. They beat a very good American history team. They beat Passaic Valley, and they also beat Dwight Morrow. So they're playing a tough schedule. These kids are used to playing, and they play a lot together. They play AAU together. So you got to be ready to run. You got to be ready to be physical if you're going to beat the Paladins.
And people are going to enjoy seeing EJ and Asike. And I apologize, EJ.
That's the center, right?
Yeah,
he
EJ
is a banger, and relentless,
Yep.
just relentless.
He is a workhorse, isn't he?
You're going to enjoy watching the effort from him up and down the floor.
Yep.
Great job pronouncing that.
Yeah.
Good job. I go along with that.
Okay.
We gave a little Italian version to it.
Yeah, well, and CK. We saw them play St. Joe's.
We did.
At Paramus Catholic. And, you know, you get tired look as they go up and down the floor. They're just flying. So that brings us to number 6. Two teams having one of the best years in the county. The Ramsey Rams, coached by Kevin McGuire. They're number 1 in the Big North at 15-1. Gaffney and Carroll, Kopazinski, 3 big, strong senior kids who are very, very tough. They lost to Washington Township, but not yours.
No.
They lost to Washington Township, who researched is the number 1 seed in South Jersey. And they beat a team from Utah, and they beat a team from Oklahoma, and then they lost to Washington Township in their holiday tournament. So that's the only blemish on Ramsey's schedule. They beat Riverdale Mawa, they beat Pascack Hills in overtime, and they beat Cliffside Park. So they're 15-1, and they're playing some tough competition. So
That game never appeared in the record. And I was out by the one, I didn't know who they lost to, and now I know.
Now you see, that's what we
Washington
have it here.
Township, the number 1 South Jersey Group 4.
Yeah.
Group 4
That's a
seed
big
from
town.
South Jersey.
It's an experienced team. They have size, and they play a terrific zone defense, and it's really hard to prepare for.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
They
saw-
cover a lot of ground in it, and you don't get many
Like a
uncontested
matchup
shots. Oh
zone?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's just it's hard.
Tesserero, I think, is their guard, 5'10" junior.
Well, Cirilli is the point guard.
Cirilli's the point guard.
He's the point guard, and again, you talk about veterans. They've all been playing together, but they're very long, and when they do play that zone, we saw him play Cliffside the other night, and Cliffside had a tough time finding any open looks. So they definitely know how to play at the defensive end of the floor.
And they shoot it well, so it makes it hard on the other end.
Yeah, we saw them
Which
at
one against
Westwood.
Westwood?
They could shoot.
Pretty much the same team was a 12 seed in the tournament last year.
Right.
So they've got tournament experience too. And then Coach McGuire has them playing in, you know, they traveled over the holiday and you know, played some teams from across the country, and so they're going to be they're you know, grizzled veterans, if you will. They're tough. They're going to be
They can make a lot of noise.
make
in
a
this
lot of noise in
Yes,
this
they
tournament. Yep. And they obviously haven't lost much. They're not used to losing. So, number 5 brings us to my alma mater, the Bergen Catholic Crusaders, at 12-3. Coach Bill Armstrong, of course, has been doing a great job there for the past few years. They are tied for number 1 in the Big North United. When we get into the seeding thing and you start looking at, okay, who goes ahead of who because they beat them, okay, well, you know, Bergen beat Bosco, Bosco beat Joe's beat Bergen, so, you know, but Bergen Catholic and Coach Armstrong obviously plays a big-time schedule. And these kids, right now, I think Billy is bringing them together because he's got a lot of pieces that weren't there last year. So they are the reigning champions, the reigning tournament champions. And he's got a bunch of new faces out there, and he's got some size. Benelli 6'8", Foreman 6'7". You know, he's got, and he plays a lot of kids. He plays, you know, 9 or 10 kids every game. So as we get further into the season and we get further into this tournament, they're going to start to get more and more comfortable playing with each other. They beat Paramus Catholic, they beat St. John Vianney, they beat Bosco, they beat Pascack Valley, and their 3 losses were to St. Joe's, to CBA, and to a very tough Passaic County Tech team the other night. Ed and I were at that game. So they've got a good chance. They got a real good chance to defend their title. The Bergen Catholic Crusaders.
Billy does a good job with them, and as Paul said, he's got a lot of new faces. He's got very good guard play, and they're starting to come together. So
It's got some new coaches too. I got to put a plug in for my guy Timmy Smith, who was a Waldwood guy who's stepped right in this year as Billy's assistant, and they seem to be on the same page and obviously doing great things. That gets us down to the top 4 seeds, and again, this is, we say the top 4 where you put a number. You have to have a seed number. You have to figure out how you're going to break down the brackets. But a lot of these teams beat each other, so it's hard to tell. And that brings us to the St. Joseph Regional Green Knights, coached by Mike Doherty, who's been doing a fabulous job there for many years now. They're 9-4. They're tied with Bergen Catholic and Bosco for number 1 in their division. They were the number 2 seed last year, and they may have one of the best players in the county, Nate Garvey, 6'3" senior. And the Green Knights, you pretty much can plug them in year after year after year as a tournament possible champion. And they play very fast. I mentioned just before talking about Paramus Catholic, that game that Ed and I saw, they were flying. They were flying up and down the court. So you got to be ready to play. And Coach Doherty, they're going to play tough, and they've got such competition there that the players know that if they're not giving everything they got on every possession, that Coach Doherty has a couple other guys he could put in there that are going to do that. So that they work real hard pushing each other, and traditionally it plays out that they're one of the best teams in the county. Chauncey Hawkins is another good player. They have 5'9" junior guard.
He has some height this year, which
he does.
is going to help him.
It's a tough backcourt. They're very quick, and they get up and down.
Yep. And they beat Hackensack twice. They beat Paramus Catholic, and they beat American History, who's a good team. They lost to Bosco St. Benedict's, who is one of the best teams in the country, and Maribor, who's our number 1 seed. So they're used to that tough competition night in, night out. Number 3 is the Teaneck Highwaymen at 13-2.
Yeah.
Last year they were the 5 seed. Of course, Jerome Smart has the Highwaymen moving in that direction where they won 4 tournaments in a row, and last year they were in the final. Lost to Bergen Catholic in the final last year. They're number 1 in the Big North National Division, and they have one of the most exciting players in the county in Jaquai James. He's a 5'8" sophomore, but he'll shoot it from anywhere, and he'll go to the basket, and he'll figure out a way to finish, and you can pencil him in for 20 plus.
They didn't miss much with the loss of Washington with James.
Doesn't look like it. James, obviously James and Washington were
Special.
formidable. That was a formidable backcourt, but
Yeah, but then the cousin from New York comes to play Daniel, so you pick up a guy who can
a
play.
big guy.
Lose a
A
guard,
big guy.
He's
pick up a
6'7".
big guy.
He's 6'7". So, and Adrian Balcom is 6'1" junior. They've got a lot of players, and they're going to, play fast. And again, if you look at James and you say, well, he's obviously one of the best players in the county, and you got to stop him. It's hard to stop him. He can. He's just a special kind of player. Just to watch him create stuff, and certainly he's got infinite range. He can shoot from the locker room, but he can also go to the basket.
And he plays hard.
And he plays hard all the time. They're 13-2, and their 2 losses are to Don Bosco, who's obviously pretty good, and also Gil St. Bernard, who's one of the best teams in the country. So they're playing a very tough schedule. And on their win side, they beat Kennedy, Old Tappan, Pascack Valley, St. Mary, and Passaic Tech. So
And Hackensack. Right?
and Hackensack too. They just beat Hackensack just last
The other
night.
night,
Last night, I think it was, right? Beat Hackensack by 10. So the Highwaymen in the last 5 years have been in the final game, and they won 4 of them. So it's hard to not think that Teaneck has a real good chance to win the tournament.
Jerome's a really good coach, and he'll have them prepared. They'll be ready.
Yep. And these kids, they're used to being there. They're not going to be, those bright lights aren't going to get.
No, not Teaneck, no.
Not going to bother them. Okay, number 2, the Don Bosco Ironmen, 14-2. Last year they were the number 1 seed. This year the number 2 seed. Sounds familiar. Kevin DeVario, of course, does a great job. They're tied with Bergen and Joe's in first place in their division. And they have one of the best players in the county too, Omar Mustafa. He's fabulous. And Brandon Anderson is another great player, and Chris Paul and Marcellus Earlington. They've got a lot of.
We've seen them for a number of years. We've seen them play.
Seems like Brandon Anderson's been around forever.
Yeah.
Right. He's a senior, and Chris Paul and Marcellus Earlington are both 6'5". Paul's a junior, and Earlington is a sophomore. And we saw them play. Teaneck, and they beat Teaneck. And they played a very, very tough zone, kind of like a half court, pick them up a half court, but playing a very tough zone defense. And they did a real good job of controlling James in that game against Teaneck. And they can play man-to-man, they can pick up full court, they can play half court, they can play some zone. They know how to play, and obviously Kevin knows how to coach. Kevin knows what he's
they have size. They
doing.
have a good backcourt, and I think the Anderson kid's going to Brown. Right, he's going to be Division I.
He is going to Brown. That's right.
And we've talked to Kevin already, so we can kind of make an announcement. Kevin is our this year's Bollerman Award winner.
Oh, excellent.
For contribution to basketball in Bergen County, and it certainly is well deserved. Multiple county championships, and he always has his teams, in competition. But they also do it, they do it the right way. They're always solid in all aspects of their game. Don Bosco Ironmen at number 2 seed. And the number 1 seed. Finally, we get to the number 1 seed. The Ramapo Raiders. Joey Sandberg, who's also a Bergen Catholic and Princeton alum. Princeton or Penn? Penn. Sorry, Joe. If you're listening, Joe, I'm sorry.
You gave him.
I saw the P, and
It's close.
but he's a Penn. He played football, I think, right?
Yes.
He's a football player at Penn. They're tied with. They're number 1, I should say, in the Big North Freedom. They are 14-1, and they are solid. They've got all the bases covered. They've got football players who had an unbelievable football season. Joe O'Hagan and Keith Wetzel. Keith's dad, I had the pleasure of coaching at Waldwick, and these kids made the transition from football to basketball seamless. They, they only lost once, I think. I mean, in the 2 seasons. And of course, Matt Lotka is one of the best players in the county. He can score. He's 6'4".
He's finally a senior, right?
6'4" senior. Chris Gordon, 6'1" senior.
Many years.
And they have a lot of players. I mean, they've got a lot of guys, and they pick up full court, man-to-man. They are all strong. They are all quick. They've got, like I said, all the bases covered. They play very, very, very tough defense. They play man-to-man mostly.
All over the court.
They help out all over the court. They've got the freshman, Mickey Hunt's son, who can shoot. So they've got depth, they've got strength, they've got good coaching. They understand what's going on. Put a plug in for my buddy Timmy Smith's brother Chris is their assistant coach along with Joe's dad. So they've got a lot of basketball knowledge in their coaching staff. Their one loss this year was to St. Joe's Metuchen, who is one of the best teams again around. And they beat St. Joe's, they beat Bosco, they beat Old Tapan, they beat St. Tech, they beat Hackensack, they beat Manchester. I mean, and the game they lost to St. Joe's, we were told
right down to the wire.
We came right down to the wire. against one of the best teams, not only in the state, but probably in the Northeast.
And it's a storied program.
Yeah. And again, kudos to Ramapo for playing, playing that kind of a tough schedule, and to Joe for doing a great job since he's been here. They've been right there. They were the number 4 seed last year.
He works very hard at it in the off season. The team is extremely fundamental. They're terrific defensively. They're really competitive. So you have an experienced seasoned group that's very competitive. They have great senior leadership. They're a basketball team.
I think the best thing you can say about Joe, he's a young coach. He too is in that group of superstar up-and-coming coaches. But the kids have bought into his system because he does play 9, 10 kids regularly, and they all know what their roles are, and they fill those roles to perfection. He's just done a terrific job.
A deserving number 1. Well, you've made an argument for 23 teams, or schools, if you will, that should be in this year's tournament. Each one of them, you had something to say about them, and each one of them brings to the table a strength. And as going to be interesting to sit down and watch these games unfold and see this year's tournament. Now, we'll recapitulate a little bit. This all starts tomorrow. That'll be Saturday, and if Ida could put that on the board, we'll start going through the schedule. This will be round 1 tomorrow. We'll start, I think, at Bergen Catholic. We have North Arlington will play at 11 o'clock. We start, and they'll play Queen of Peace. Then you see on your screen Dwight Englewood, Rutherford, Pagoda, St. Mary's. Bergen Field, you'll have a game at 12 o'clock. Elmwood Park, Riverdale, and then at 1:30, Park Ridge will play Cliffside Park, and then at Old Tappan will be other games there, Palisades Park, Hackensack, and Marwa, Pasco Valley. The Jamboree starts tomorrow at 11 o'clock at Bergen Catholic, and sometime around 4 or 5 o'clock you'll whittle that all down to the Sweet 16.
And we should give a shout out to the schools in the first 2 rounds that host us tomorrow. Bergen Catholic, Bergen Field, and Old Tappan,
and their athletic director,
and their
Jack
athletic director.
McGovern at Bergen Catholic, Tom Cashell at Old Tappan, and Tom Curry, who we've mentioned along the way at Bergen Field. If it weren't for those guys stepping up and hosting, we'd be in trouble. So
they basically did it last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Same,
right?
yes,
The
same
same
group.
schools,
Yep.
and I guess if you had more teams, you'd have other schools that have volunteered to come in and give you a hand if you needed it.
If we needed to, we have a couple. Joe Collins over at Indian Hills has offered if we needed to go there. So, and then our second round.
Second round, we go to Northern Highlands next Saturday, February the 6th. And again, that's Bob Williams, the athletic director there, who's been doing this for many years, hosting the round of 16. And then we go from Highlands on Saturday to Super Bowl Sunday, February the 7th. And we'll be at Tenafly High School, Dan Kilday. And we'll be starting bright and early on Super Bowl Sunday so everybody can get out of there.
Yeah, let's give the times for the Northern Highlands game on Saturday, February 6th. The times are...
well, we'll start at 11 a.m.
Right.
on Highlands, and then on Sunday at Tenafly we'll start at 10 a.m. So as I said, we'll be starting a little earlier due to the Super Bowl so that we can be finished.
Yeah, we've done that for years, that Sunday game early, so we all can get home and watch the football
And Ed
game.
was the one who used to host us there.
Yes, and they do both. All the
Right.
sites. The first 2 rounds are the easiest for us when it comes to that because the folks that Ed mentioned take care of a lot of the details. So tomorrow and then again next weekend, Saturday and Sunday, we just need to show up and watch games. And then after the games, just another little insight into what happens after the games tomorrow. We will communicate. We'll have people somebody on the committees will be at each of the sites, and we will talk after that and see who won. And then we will take a real good look at the winners and the teams that had to bye, and we will then figure out what's the best way to, who goes to Northern Highlands, who goes to Tenafly.
And one more step that we'll take in that process is this weekend the girls will be in their second round. They'll be playing both Saturday and Sunday. So one of the things that we've learned from experience is that we're going to wait until Sunday afternoon. So we see right now there's 7 or 8 schools that have both boys and girls teams in the tournament. So we'll wait until Sunday. Mike Weaver, who's the new chairperson of the girls tournament, will communicate with Mike and make sure that we don't schedule 2 teams basically playing, or 2 schools, a school playing at approximately the same time. We want to stretch them out so the fans can get to both places.
That's great. That's great.
We also have there's also that second tournament too. The girls NJIC starts tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's the things that factor into our decision on who goes to where, and you know,
And that's something
around
people,
the 16.
the public may not understand, that you have to wait until to see if you have a school that has boys and girls and both of them in tournaments and they're playing, you don't want to play the same time.
Correct.
Yeah, if mom going to one, dad going there,
Yep.
you'll have a headache. Then when you finish with that, we move on to Fairleigh Dickinson, back to the Rothman Center, huh? For the,
We hope so.
We hope so.
We hope so.
We're not asking that question. No question. Let's move on. Do they have the bleachers all around?
We have enough seats.
Yes, there's
We
enough
have
seats.
We have enough.
Well, the next games will be February 14th, if I'm not mistaken. Am I
Valentine's Day.
right?
Valentine's Day.
Valentine's
Right.
Day. It'll be a Sunday. I'm assuming the times will be. You haven't decided the times yet.
Well, we do have some tentative times. We'll be starting in the afternoon for the quarters. We'll be starting at 2 o'clock. And as Paul said, we're planning on going to Fairleigh Dickinson for those 4 games.
Okay. You'll let us know. We want to make sure we show up.
you'll
We don't
be
want
the-
everything there. Nobody shows up.
You'll be
Like
the
us.
second one to know after we know. After we know, you'll know. But just to clarify, it's. I mentioned at the outset that Ed has done an unbelievable job of arranging for us to get to the sites that we are using and making sure that everything is ready at those sites. And we'd like to thank our friends up at Ramapo College for the last several years. We have no reason, the only reason that we would look at changing venues is because we have so many fans that come out that we really don't. One of the hard things that we do is when we have to see people who can't get into a game. So we have to look at sites around the county that seat more people.
Yep.
And you guys have been around long enough to have been to those games where people were banging on the doors to get in. And
I would go back to Paramus when you played the games at Paramus and you couldn't get people in a snowstorm. You couldn't get people in, and you want to get them in. You don't want to turn anybody away. You want to try to get them all in.
And you're able to get more money to go back to the school in scholarships and so forth from the
Well,
games.
yeah, that's great, John. I'm glad that you reminded me.
I wanted to,
because
He's retired now, John. He doesn't remember.
collectively,
See, you're retired. See, I've been around a little longer.
well,
Retired.
collectively, we have a great memory, but individually, there's big holes in memory. But yes, all of the profits that are made on the tournament go to the BCCA and the scholarship. And for the last bunch of years, it's been the Lou Lanzalotta Scholarship, which sends $500 to a worthy athlete at each of the schools that we mentioned in Bergen County. It's still going to be $500. And you want to mention the other scholarship that they're working on?
As certainly we all know, we lost the mentor this past year, Mickey Corcoran, who, along with Ed Strohmeyer, certainly are the cornerstones of the Jamboree. And in his memory, a scholarship has been started, and Rookie, the rest of his family are working with the BCCA to kind of facilitate the dispersal of those funds, and that's something that they're in the process of working on. But no better way to honor his memory then to run the scholarship. And additionally, Paul, I'll let you talk about the championship trophy.
Well, we mentioned that the tournament started in 1951, and back then, the great mentor Mickey Corcoran was involved with the start of the tournament. So Mickey, on a personal note, anytime we had any of these issues, there would be a phone call. I'd make a phone call. Certainly, you know, we were all very, very good friends with Mickey. But I could make a phone call, Leon, anybody, and Mickey, what do you think? And we always knew that the advice that we would get from Mickey would be solid. In honor of Mickey, and also to honor Mr. Jamboree man, Ed Strohmeyer, who unfortunately the Strohmeyer family just lost Ed's son recently also. Ed was on the committee for 40 years. I mean, calling him Mr. Jamboree man was not an exaggeration. And we are going to name the championship trophy the I want to get rookie
Corcoran
Strohmeyer
Yes. Championship trophy.
The Corcoran Strohmeyer Championship Trophy. So that in 60 years from now, you know, 60 years ago, Oscar F. Thompson was involved. Howard Bollerman was involved.
Charlie
Yenny was involved. We still talk about these guys, and we hope that 60 years from now they'll still be talking about Mickey Corcoran and Ed Strohmeyer.
Absolutely.
Well, and as you know, Mickey was a special guy to so many people, to yours truly, for sure, and so many others. And his fingerprints are all over this tournament, as they should be, and it's run really the way he would want it to be done.
Just an aside, last year we came over to the to Tenafly to see the game, and we sat down. Paul was nice enough to make us sit up against the wall, and Mickey came and he sat down next to John and me, and he spoke to you. And when Mickey spoke to you, you get the feeling that he knew you for 25 years, not 25 minutes. He made you feel like you were
the
a
only
very
guy in
close
the room.
friend.
Yeah,
Like you just met him and you felt like, gee, that guy made me feel like he knew me for 25 years. That was something that he had. That was a special trait of his, and he never failed to come by and say hello.
And he knew everybody. He knew everybody's name. And when you talk about Mickey Corcoran, for our fans out there, Bill Parcells, Bill Belichick, Bob Knight, Mike Krzyzewski, all of those, Vince Lombardi. Well, he played for Vince Lombardi, of course, but the other fellows, they all called him mentor. You know, obviously he mentored all of us here in Bergen County, but you know, when you mentioned Bob Knight, Mike Krzyzewski, you know, Bill Parcells, Bill Belichick. I mean, Mickey's fingerprints are all over sports in this country.
So that's what John and I, we do this because we love it, but all the people that we've met, you gentlemen, Mickey Corcoran, Ed Strohmeyer, that we dealt with so many years. We've had the honor to meet so many people who are just great individuals. So we get a lot out of this because we deal with people like you. And 60 years from now, they're going to be talking about Paul Plugins and Ed Palmer and Leon Steinberg. They won't remember
60
us.
minutes,
They won't remember you.
60 minutes, they'll forget us.
No, us they won't even know.
You do look good in those shirts, though.
Oh, that's what made us. We look about 10 years younger.
Before we forget, we just got to move. The semifinals will be on the 21st.
Right.
And the finals will be 4 weeks from tonight, and in 4 weeks exactly from
4
tonight.
weeks from tonight.
It's the 26th.
26,
And you'll
7
have
o'clock, I can tell you
7
that.
o'clock, and it's 9 o'clock now, so exactly 4 weeks from this minute,
We'll know
you'll
who it
probably
is.
have a
We'll
champion.
hand out the trophy.
And I had to change my schedule. I was supposed to leave on Friday, but now I'm leaving Saturday morning early.
Right. Knock on wood. Hope for good weather.
Well,
Hope for good weather,
I have to
everybody.
drive to Fort Lauderdale.
Before we leave, I know this is very important, and we like to play it up during the game and give a shout out to your sponsors. I know that you, over the next couple of weeks, you'll be dealing with people who, organizations and businesses that would like to sponsor this wonderful tournament. They can get in touch with you during the tournament, and I don't know if you have anything lined up, but when you do, you let us know, and we'll be glad to put it on our bulletin board and announce
Absolutely.
it 3-4 times during the game.
Lifesavers Inc., who came on board last year. Bob did a great job for us. Thanks, Bob. We've got TD Bank. We have
Joel
Joel Insurance, Joel and Company Insurance,
Diamond Water,
Diamond Water. We have Mountain Valley Spring Water,
Sports Time,
Sports Time.
Geez.
You know,
WCTV.
WCTV. Maybe you know.
Janet doesn't know we're sponsored. We have seen the mayor.
The mayor.
You got to get a check from Janet, you know?
Yeah.
Well, we'll have that list, and as we start the Jamboree, we'll always during breaks to make sure that we announce all the sponsors of this Jamboree and make sure everybody knows that all the money goes to a worthy cause, to a scholarship throughout Bergen County. People have to understand that when they pay at the door or they do something, or the sponsors, the money's going to a worthwhile cause. So we want to make sure that we get that out for you.
Thank you.
So here we go, the 60th Jamboree. We start in about 14 hours. The basketball gets thrown up. All your work has been done. You sit back and you reap. I said all your work is done.
So I go home, watch the end of the Knicks tonight. I don't have to go home and write checks. I don't have to
Relax.
go. Oh gosh.
Larry gave you the time off.
You got to take it easy
But
now.
you're retired. You're allowed to do all this extra
Put your
work.
feet up, relax. No, I'm sure there's a lot more work in the next 4 weeks. But we want to thank you all for coming. It's a pleasure. I was telling Ed, when we left Ramapo College, I said, I'll see you in a couple of days. He walked in and I said, boy, it went fast. A couple of days. This goes fast.
Excuse me, mention the girls' games for Sunday.
Oh yeah, I'll mention that when we go off. We're going to be covering the girls. Westwood is in a tournament, the girls' tournament, county tournament. We're going to be covering Westwood versus Saddle River Day, and we'll be doing Ridgewood and IHA. I to make sure that I don't forget anything. She comes right in, barges in.
Where are those games?
They'll be playing at IHA.
Washington Township.
In Washington Township, Bergen County, not down where, you know. So we doing that.
Who's our technical director?
Come on, technical director. This is
Hi.
come on,
Mr.
this is
Stickles.
James,
He
good
did all
job,
that.
James.
This you know Mr. Pligers, right? Okay. So again, let me thank you all. Everyone, the schedule we'll have for the Jamboree will be up on our bulletin board. We'll have it on our website. We'll be talking about it. We'll start picking up the games next week at Northern Highlands. When you see it in the paper, see it on our website, go over and watch the game. It's a fantastic tournament. You'll see some great basketball. You enjoy it. And February is basketball, high school basketball, and the Jamboree in particular. So for John Francola, has any last thing to say, John? Go ahead.
Well, no. When you go to these games, make sure you go there early so you get a seat.
Yeah, get there early. Sometimes,
We
you
need the
can pack
money.
them in, get
Not
them in
us,
there.
but they need the money for the scholarship.
Okay, so very good. For James, who's our technical director, John Francola, Paul Pugliese, Leon Steinberg, Ed Crowmer, Ida, who comes in to make sure that I don't forget anything, Nick, who's been on 3 cameras, Ricky, who's been working the switchboard, and the rest of the crew that will be working this Jamboree. This is Larry Ferry saying, we hope you enjoy it. We'll see you on the road to Rotman or the road to the finals as we cover the 2016 Jamboree. Good night, everybody.